Buongiorno. This is a challenge run, wherein I'll try to beat Pokemon Sapphire version using only its worst, hardest to catch, low stat totals, bad Pokemon. And Plusle. Welcome, I'm happy you're here. This is my 3rd generation E-tier challenge run. My name is Mothy, Jimothy for long. I've played a run with the same gimmick in Crystal version a few months ago and had such a great time producing that, and y'all were so excited and kind in the comments that I didn't need much convincing to reattempt that run on another title. This video has a bit of a talkier intro while I'm going to go over how I landed on my list of eligible Pokemon for the run and speak on the nature of the rankings. So if you'd rather skip straight to the action, I'll have chapters marked in the metadata. But I know some of y'all just want to hear me yap while you're at work, so let's get into some data. Also, I will humbly ask, if you enjoy this type of content, please let me know. You'll help me out a lot if you like or comment, and I will treat you very nicely if you feel like subscribing. Okay. First thing to understand is how these Pokemon got ranked. These tier lists are based on efficiency at beating the game's campaign. Not just how strong a Pokemon is in a vacuum, but whether it has useful typings against gym leaders and the Elite Four, whether it gobbles up your good TMs just to function when you get it, because catching a Rhyhorn just before 8 water areas is a severe demerit for the species. All of these criteria are factored in. I kind of had to create my own tier list, but I cross-referenced 2 different Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald in-game tier lists for this challenge, both from Smogon. That's because they have 2 different Gen 3 lists of competing officialness. Published in their guides section is an air quotes official list created at least as far back as July 2018 according to the Internet Archive. This guide has a bottom tier where I'll start shopping for Pokemon, and also a low tier that may be on the table as well. Stay tuned. My second tier list source, also on Smogon, is not an article but a forum post, updated October 2024, much more recently, with 6 more years of testing and much more community input. This one is ranked with letters, so I'm definitely looking at the F tier here with my eyes also darting up to the E tier as I salivate over Wurmple. I'm going to refer to these 2 sources as the guide and the post going forward. And by the way, if you're unfamiliar with Smogon, that's just a website full of a ton of valuable Pokemon data and discussion who I feel are sweaty enough to serve as a reasonable source of truth on Pokemon rankings. So, with 2 sources, each having a rock bottom tier as well as an almost bottom tier, and more than a little disparity between them, how did I assemble my eligible list of Pokemon to run for this Sapphire version E-tier challenge run? Well, in plain English, my pool of Pokemon comes down to Pokemon that at least one source called bad, as long as neither source called them good. For the specifics, let's learn a little bit about set theory. A set is just a collection of different things. Ketchup, mayo, and da bomb sauce is the set of condiments in my fridge right now. Your fridge might have only ketchup and mustard. Different sets that happen to have ketchup in common, but also some unique sauces that the other one doesn't have. For this guide, I'm looking at sets of crappy Pokemon. We've got 4. There's bottom tier from the guide, low tier from the guide, F tier from the post, and E tier from the post. The most obvious Pokemon to allow on my menu of options are any Pokemon that are in both the bottom tier and the F tier. This would be the intersection of those 2 sets. Any Pokemon that both sources agree is in the absolute bottom should definitely be permitted for me. That starts the conversation with Chimecho, Clamperl, Jigglypuff, Lovedisk, Wobbuffet, Goldeen, Spinda, Illumise, Volbeat, Mawile if we're playing Emerald version where it comes much later, and Surskit. Now that's basically so few Pokemon that my team would be chosen for me from the outset. I do want a few more to play with because building the team is a big part of the fun of doing these runs. So I combined the F tier and E tier into one set, that's called the union of the 2 sets, and then also took the union of the bottom and low tiers, then gave myself the intersection of these 2 larger sets. That put a lot more Pokemon on the table. Mawile regardless of version, Minun and Plusle, Nosepass, Roselia, Sandshrew, Skitty, Cacnea, Castform, Duskull, Lileep, Natu, Relicanth, Rhyhorn, Sableye, Slugma, Seedot, Snorunt, and Wurmple. It also would have included Bagon, Regirock, and Registeel, but I'm choosing to forfeit these 3 species like I selflessly did with Entei in my Crystal version E-tier run, because they have massive stat lines and they're only ranked so low due to inconvenience rather than power level. Notably, by defining my pool this way, I've excluded Pokemon who were ranked lowly on one of my sources, but middle or highly on the other one. If my 2 sources have a significant disagreement on how good a Pokemon is, I'm allowing the pessimistic voice to win. This excluded quite a few Pokemon for me. I'll note that the guide's low tier felt especially permissive and was full of Pokemon that the forum post thought were strong. And kind of on that note, there are a few species ranked lowly on the forum post that the guide forgot to even mention, so if only one source speaks up, that's the de facto source of truth. So as one final small group of includes, I'm allowing myself Corsola, Kecleon, Fanbai, and Horsey. Pokemon that at least one source called bad, as long as neither source called them good. With our eligible list constructed, let's begin the game. I'm struck immediately how screaming fast this UI feels after playing Gen 4 a couple times. I love it. To make this challenge run a challenge, on top of using weak Pokemon, I'm going to play with level caps commensurate with the next most gym leaders. And even then, I'm not going to push the cap outside of a few gyms that I expect to be particularly impossible. I'm also playing in set mode, which forfeits the free switch out after we defeat each opponent in a trainer battle. I'll have to be more intentional with how I switch Pokemon, and that might mean making some catches for the team just because some species is a good one for switching into. For example, that might favor species with a shorter list of weaknesses. Now, obviously, any starter Pokemon is going to be too strong for us to run, yes, even Trico, but our choice of starter matters a great deal. Because taking Torchic would make our rival acclaim Marshtomp, which can be tough to counter without a grass type. We would be strong-armed into running Roselia or a bullet-seeding Seedot. Putting May on Trico would probably be okay. We could run a Dustox to resist it and do some work with Poison Sting. But I chose Trico myself to put May on Torchic because its types will be the easiest by far for my planned team to be able to handle. So I defeat May's Torchic on Route 203, get the Pokédex, and pass the catching tutorial in order to receive some Pokeballs and officially begin the run once I'm able to catch my own Pokemon. Now, I would not be who I am if I didn't catch a full party full of Zigzagoons. No, they're not allowed in battle, but I will be doing a fair bit of grinding to reach level caps, so the extra rare candies and super potions that these Zigzagoons pick up will just save me time. Y'all get new videos 1% faster if I load up on Zigzagoons. I do have access to one real catch here too, but it's awkward, it's Wormpull. Because I want to raise a Dustox, not a Beautifly, and it's a random which cocoon your worm will evolve into. I'd have to grind a worm to level 7 just to make that coin toss, but I also do want to hunt for a favorable nature, and my heart would break if I raised a perfect Wormpull for it to betray me evolving into a Silcoon. So the plan is to wait for Petalburg Woods where we can directly catch a Cascoon and have more control over the nature. There is one other eligible catch if we turn our gaze to Route 102. Also a bug Pokemon with much worse encounter rate at 1% is the humble Surskit. Listen, it's not common you hear players struggling with Roxanne, but she is a real problem on this run. Our options within the level cap to do any real damage to her are very slim. We could do non-stab Absorb from Beautifly or Confusion from Dustox, but those both get wrecked by rock attacks after failing to one-shot. I went so deep for a Roxanne solution that I was considering catching a male Skitty, that's 25% gender odds on a 2% encounter, who might be able to set up a win with Sing. Seedot with the Bullet Seed TM might also work, except that's not catchable in Sapphire version. Leaving my best/only Roxanne solution, a Bubbling Surskit. After finally encountering one, I did have a heart attack when my Scratch critically hit, but the damage stopped in the red, and now I've got my very first Pokemon, Jemima. I don't care what her nature is, I'm not catching more than one of these. Looks like Jemima's nature trades in speed for defense, which actually might be helpful surviving a hit. With Jemima to lead the team, Trico is officially retired, and I got to training. Having caught the thing, grinding it up is much less painful than my Crystal run was. Luddiba and Fanpai just couldn't beat level 2 wild Pokemon. Jemima, by contrast, is actually able to beat Zigzagoons, especially because their turns they waste on Growl don't affect bubble damage. I got her to level 7 to learn Quick Attack before I felt ready to take on a boss fight, which is just the first trainer battle in the game with a level 5 Zigzagoon. 4 bubbles took this thing down while he just growled and tail whipped for a flawless victory. A performance I didn't expect. I feel empowered to handle some more trainers. Before fighting my third though, I realized that I should go back and catch a Wormpull after all. Cause if I catch it as a Cascoon, it's only gonna know Harden and it will only be level 5. That's a lot of switch training before it evolves at level 10. I simply realized it'll take less time rolling the dice on a Wormpull even if I get the wrong evolution 3 or 4 times over than it would take switch training a Cascoon to 10. Because it's such a common Pokemon, I did have the liberty to shop for a good-natured worm, then I got to leveling up Wasabi. At level 5, Wormpull gains Poison Sting, which makes the rest of the grind much quicker. And by the time we hit 6, one of my Zigzagoons had actually picked up a rare candy, so I saved my game and candied Wasabi to 7. Dang it. My next Wormpull, Pim's Cup, looked pretty good on nature and stats, so I grinded her to 6 as well. It's funny, there's some calculus involved in wormpole training. The more worms you grind to evolution, the less time each one takes because Zigzagoons keep picking up rare candies during wild encounters. With 2 candies in the bag, I'll only need to get a worm to level 5 before I can test it. Eventually, I wouldn't have to grind at all, just catch any worm and candy check for Cascoon immediately. Sadly, Pim's Cup also had the wrong evolution. But my third wormpole, Peptide, finally evolved into Cascoon, so she claims spot number 2 on the team. Her adamant nature looks perfect, but Dustox ends up in a more supportive role by the endgame, and I wonder if a defense-boosting nature might have ultimately worked out better for me. Now, the Bug Sisters don't form an ideal team, but together they're able to scrape through the other trainers on my way toward Petalburg City. Peptide suffered a KO from a level 3 Talo. You'd better believe this fight terrified me. So after winning, I was debating a run back to town, then I realized I actually possess a Revive and a Super Potion from the Raccoon Squad. It's terribly cash inefficient, but I did get all this for free, so the least I can do is use them when they're helpful. I'm big like Leanne Rhymes, but not everything has to be about value. In Petalburg City, meet Dad, meet Wally, and then get him a Ralts. Psychic type is pretty disadvantaged in Gen 3 with so few poison and fighting foes, many of which are metatypes anyway, and so much dark. Its early catch and solid stats take Ralts off my options, though. If I'm desperate for Psychic type, Chimecho is like a Timu Gardevoir I can catch later on. Speaking on the trainer battle meta, though, that's why I decided to play this run on Sapphire version as opposed to Ruby or Emerald. Ruby and Emerald have us fighting Team Magma with abundant Numels and Camerups throughout the run, but there are no eligible water Pokemon in my pool to counter those. Goldeen doesn't count until I get Surf in the mid-game. I'm expecting it to be significantly easier to punish Team Aqua's water Pokemon since this game asks us to have a water answer already anyway, and we even have plenty of bugs to punish the dark typing on Aqua's Carvanas and Sharpedos. Which I did accidentally trigger my first Team Aqua fight before I meant to, with the Bug Sisters at level 9 against his level 9 Poochyena. Fortunately, Jemima comes out ahead on the opening exchange of blows, and a couple of non-damaging moves from Poochyena let me widen the gap and win pretty cleanly. This could have gone poorly though. There's also one trainer with a Nincada before we make it outside the forest that Peptide has to poison in order to do any real damage. Nincada, whom we could go catch in a minute, is allowed on the team, so I was considering Ninjask for a time. Swords Dance and Speed Boost from his ability Baton Passed Out to let someone else do the sweeping definitely has some strategic potential. But there are just so many bug options on this run, I had to decline Nincada for simply being less compelling than the rest. Jemima and Peptide got to take on the game's first double battle together, focusing down Lotad first, and then a poison Seedot before his Bide could fire off. And Peptide reached level 10, fighting a Last to evolve into Dustox and then pick up Confusion. Unfortunately, level 10 is probably her maximum relative power level, as her stats will slowly drop off for the rest of the game. So we're in Rustboro, not quite at level cap, but before doing any grinding, I wanted to tackle the trainers within the Rustboro gym first. Jemima crushes Geodudes with Bubble, and Peptide even managed to beat another one, though taking more than one attack from it would have been a problem. Then I grabbed what other trainer XP I could out on Route 116. This is where we could have caught a Skitty for the team, but outside of maybe singing me past Roxanne's Nose Pass, there's no single problem that Skitty would solve for me. On a team of weak Pokemon, everyone needs a niche. It's okay to be bad at 4 things if you're really good at one, but Skitty's specialty is being average in every single way. I cannot justify that. To the 5 hardcore Skitty fans I just angered, I'm sorry, I want to love it. With every trainer I had access to defeated, my bugs were only level 13, and I decided to give an attempt to Roxanne. Her Geodude does not have the Sturdy ability, which prevents getting KO'd in one move from full health, so I'd like to be one-shotting it with Bubble. But Jemima faints, and Peptide couldn't survive to help much, so I had to leave and grind the team to the cap before reattempting. Unfortunately, Jemima at 15 still doesn't one-shot Roxanne's Geodude, but this fool defense curled, and even luckier, I got Roxanne to blow a potion while still allowing Bubble to be lethal on turn 2. Then Nosepass is a lot scarier. His weakness to water is only 2x, not 4x, and my first Bubble does an unimpressive quarter of her health bar. A nice damage roll on Bubble 2 puts her clearly below half health though, and Nosepass's attack is low enough that we survive a super effective rock throw back on us. Roxanne potions to almost full, only for my critical Bubble hit to take us to just about where we were before that. She does take out Jemima with another rock, but Peptide is enough to shave off her final pixels of health. Believe it or not, Roxanne was one of the toughest challenges to solve for this whole run. Our opportunities are just so limited at the start of the game. Frankly, knowing that I would need more than just one Surskit to win this battle defined a lot of how I actually came up with the ultimate tier list that I allowed myself for this video. I'm curious if anyone has a better idea than Surskit bubbles for winning this one. With the ability to cut, I grabbed some more Route 116 trainers, then saved Pico and accepted Mr. Stone's letter delivery quest. Mr. Briny then ferried me to Dewford, where there's a few new Pokemon eligible for the team. Kind of, I just need the Old Rod from here. Then I rode the ferry back to Petalburg and went fishing in the town pond, where the Old Rod can hook Goldeen 30% of the time. This is going to be my water type, so I thanked Jemima for her service and put her in computer jail before settling down to fish. Before long, I caught Waitress the Goldeen. Swift Swim is a nice ability, and I'm okay with her sassy nature. Goldeen is a fake water type though, cause she won't learn a single water attack until Surf, instead relying on off-type physical attacks, but her water type should be useful on defense for me. Waitress is my Plannery for Flannery. I proceed to score her a few levels fighting junk Pokemon locally before returning to Dewford and fighting the gym trainers in there. Peck did excellent work against the fighting Pokemon in here. She even managed to defeat the first Meditite she ran into without taking damage thanks to playing around Bide. I have gone my whole life without raising a Goldeen until now, and I'm pretty happy that this E-tier run gave me a reason to use one. Then, Waitress still wanted a few levels for Brawly that I grinded out in the Granite Cave. At level 15, she picked up Horn Attack. At 65 power, this is nicely above curve, though super effective Pecks are still barely better for me against fighting types. But I didn't even use Waitress for Brawly at all. I started that fight with Peptide leading at level 16. Dustox is built to counter this fight, taking sharply reduced damage while dishing out pretty good hits with Confusion. I even landed a Confusion with Confusion, but that didn't matter, and a third Confusion defeated Machop. Then, against Makuhita, it looks like it's gonna be another 3 Confusion match. He blows turn 1 on Bulk Up, and turn 2 on Sand Attack, which does make me miss my third Confusion, but we get there on turn 4 for an effortless sweep, leveling to 17 and picking up Protect. A move that I don't think that I can win this run without. Peptide has a very important job later. With Flash permission, I did Granite Cave for real, bringing Steven his letter. And that's all I originally planned to do in here. But, you know impulse buying? I kind of impulse caught a Sableye. A Sapphire version exclusive with medium stats across the board, like Skitty, but unlike the cat, Sableye has interesting type defenses, including immunity to 3 types. It's a Pokemon whose value goes up a fair bit when playing on set mode, because you're often able to predict an opponent's coming attack and then swap into Sableye to nullify it. I'm also playing Sapphire version, so there is some appeal in using the version exclusive. But mostly, I haven't been able to shake the looming threat of Watson, and I just feel like the extra body on the team might help. I don't have a real strategy there, so numbers might be my answer. Sableye is a relatively common catch, so I caught 2 and picked the one with better stats. This freak is a Randall. Unlike my other catches so far who have a planned purpose, Randall is here because he just feels like he might do something cool later. It's like drafting a card or tile in some board game that doesn't obviously do anything at first, but it has some rule-bending effect that could clearly become an engine piece later on. Randall joins at level 11, and I could carefully train him up to match the team, or just sail back to Rustboro real quick and grab the XP share from Mr. Stone. This is preferable to using 11 damage Nightshades on Zubats for 40 minutes. Then I took the double ferry all the way to Slateport, crushing the beach trainers and the shack trainers. Randall even hit the point of handling his own battles toward the end, only for me to discover that Azurill is apparently a normal type. Oopsie poopsie. Now, I made sure to grab the Pokéblock case from the girl in the Slateport contest hall, since that's our admission ticket to the Safari Zone later on. The Hoenn Safari Zone contains a couple of eligible Pokemon for this run, so it's best to be prepared. And the sailor in here gives us a Torment TM. Normally the kind of garbage I wouldn't look twice at, but it's the exact kind of esoteric nonsense move that might help a team of bad Pokemon sneak a win. Spoiler, I totally don't use Torment, by the way, but listen, Watson is coming. The electric, nay, steel gym leader who's extremely tough on a normal playthrough. On an E-tier run, Watson has me considering all kinds of weird options. Before advancing the plot, I dip north to catch a Plusle on Route 110. Plusle is not a Sapphire version exclusive, but it's pseudo-exclusive, much more common in Sapphire than Ruby. While both Plusle and Minun are similar, their niche is both a fast glass cannon electric attacker, and Plusle has the higher special attack, meaning it is just better, so again we're rewarded for playing Sapphire. This run would legitimately look so different in Ruby, it might be worth attempting that run separately. Now, I hard disagree with Plusle being ranked so low in the tier lists. I think it's only down here because of comparison with Manectric, Electrode, and Magneton. Sure, its ability is moot and its moveset narrow, but high speed and special attack on an electric Pokemon in a game full of water types does not belong anywhere near the bottom of a tier list that's allegedly based on how efficient a Pokemon is against the meta. I did fret a little bit about natures in this run and spent a few catches to land on Godiva, the perfect natured Plusle for the team. She only knows Quick Attack for now, which I'd call not usable, so she gets the XP share, but Thunder Wave is sure to be a mainstay later. Inside the Slateport Museum, I scared that one Aqua Grunt into handing me a Thief TM. This is a utility move with little utility in PvE, but it's not so bad as an attack on Randall, actually. Upstairs, Randall nightshades a Carvanha to defend Captain Stern, then against the ensuing Grunt manages to squeak out another win thanks to that Carvanha blowing a turn on Focus Energy. Then with the Slateport plot handled, it's up Route 110 for real towards Mauville City. One Pokefan trainer with 2 bunnies each hold Oran berries, so Randall actually gets some value with Thief. But awkwardly, they only know Quick Attack, so they can't damage Randall, so he never got to eat that first berry, so he could never steal the second, and it gets to heal. Just thought that was niche and interesting. Randall gets the chance to learn Fury Swipes at level 17, but I don't think that's ever realistically getting used over Thief. No thank you. And I stepped into the Trick House because it gives Trainer XP. There is a magnet as a prize several visits down the line, so I did make sure to keep up with the Trick House as I played the run. May assaults us a few steps further for our first battle with real teams. Let's see if I made a good choice putting her on Torchic. I lead Peptide against her Wailmer for a few reasons. Going for a Poison Sting Poison should help with Wailmer's high hit points, and I have Protect to both scam free Poison Ticks and interrupt her rollouts from chaining. I do ultimately have to swap into Waitress to spare Peptide a KO and beat the whale with Horn Attack. May sends in Shroomish next, whose Mega Drains hurt, but Pex should still win an outright contest. Stun Spore complicates that outright contest though, and I do have to send in Peptide again to Poison Sting the win. Once Combuskin comes out, any switch that I could make would throw away whoever I switch to, so I do just let Peptide fall for a free swap. My only out here is going to be a Paralyze with Godiva, who then also cashes in her life, chipping in some quick attacks before I have to send in Randall to close. This ghost's about to bust you. Normally Randall would act second, but Paralysis has him going first, letting me stack Astonish flinches with full Paralyze turns to lock her out until she's in Nightshade range for the win. Combuskin makes me feel good. I said this on my last challenge video, but these weak teams forcing me to really give it my all and involve the whole team for major battles are a refreshing, fun way to experience Pokemon games. I would definitely encourage it. It's very fun to play these. We reach Mauville with the team at 18 and 19. I'll want every edge available since I barely have access to any moves that can hurt Watson's steel types, so let's get to powering up. First, grab the bike. I went with Acro. Then I fought the trainers on Route 118 and Cycling Road, which between them serve 8 Magnemites. At first I thought this was bad design, then I realized it's kind of smart as a tutorial for the player to learn how to handle Magnemites for the coming gym. I used it to validate a couple of my strategies. Godiva hit level 19 to learn Spark, changing her from usable to very strong, just like that. But now let's talk about Watson's strategies. The problems are his Magnemite and Magneton, who are only weak to Fire, Fighting, and Ground. They resist a whole lot of other types. Ground is the most appealing as a 4x weakness, but we literally don't have access to a ground move under the level cap. Their defense is a lot higher than their special defense, so fighting doesn't look as good, plus the 20 power Rock Smash might be my only fighting move. Fire type is interesting though. If I was playing Ruby version, in place of Sableye, you can catch Mawile, a funky steel type with middling stats, but it can actually learn Flamethrower if you gamble for a while at the Mauville Game Corner. My cash before entering the gym ended up at 47,000, and the cash price of Flamethrower is 80,000, so it wouldn't actually be too much gambling to get that. That fact had me so close to running Ruby version just for the fire-breathing Mawile tech against Watson, but in Sapphire, I don't think we have any other fire access. Another thing I would have loved to do is poison them and hide behind it with Peptide, but they're immune to poison. So if my offense is going to suck, what can I manage on defense? Watson's Shockwaves will be ineffective against other electric types or grass. Grass moves don't hurt him much in return though, except for Leech Seed, which shaves off a percentage. It's Roselia. Roselia is definitely the correct Watson counter. Resists electric, solid special defense, then can do damage with Leech Seed and steal turns with Stun Spore. But there's a problem with that. I would be renting a Roselia for just this one gym. I don't want to keep one around because it would compete with both Peptide and Godiva for space on the team. So I decided instead of a disposable Roselia, I would just level the Pokemon I have to the cap and see if I can power through. I've got 4 bodies on the team. It might be enough, but I definitely can't worry about trying to prevent getting knocked out in this fight. The good news is, Nightshades from Randall feel pretty good against Magnemites. It looks like 2 attacks would probably handle Watson's Magnemite, and there's a chance he can get Magneton in 3 or 4 if I can send him in fresh. I head into Mauville Gym to take out the trainers now. Peptide hit level 20 against the first trainer to learn Moonlight, which heals yourself for half. It goes nicely with stalling for poison damage and with her decent defenses. Also interesting is Godiva learning Encore at level 22. I've not messed with Encore yet in my life in casual playthroughs, but I believe in its theoretical power to steal a matchup. If a foolish opponent leads with any setup move, we can lock them into repeating it again and claim an easy win. Then with every trainer beat up until Watson and the team all leveled to 23, I stuck Cherry Berries into Empty Hands as a hedge against Paralysis and stepped up to the impossible Watson challenge. I lead with Waitress here because she's not doing anything against the tougher foes. Let's at least see what she can do to a Magnemite. Well, I blew an attempt or two, miserably trying to make Supersonic work, then lost Waitress without even scratching Magnemite and had no chance at the rest of the fight. So I did take some quick L's here. Finally, I decided if Confusion is going to screw me anyway, I may as well just start blasting with ineffective horn attacks. It looks like 6 of them would get a KO. The RNG pendulum swung back a little too far though, because this time Magnemite missed a Sonic Boom and a Supersonic, while I got a crit horn attack to actually beat Magnemite outright in 5 turns. I'm not proud of it, but this battle is not happening if we don't take a cheesy win like this. Voltorb did quickly pay me back though. 2 sparks killed Waitress fast with Paralysis even skipping my 1 turn. I do think I need Randall fresh for Magneton, and Poison is only going to be viable against this one non-steel opponent, so I sent in Peptide here to play for Poison. My first 3 stings didn't poison, but she's resisting spark damage quite well, and Moonlight buys me back several turns. I just can't let my hit points drop below 21 or Sonic Boom would become a risk. I never do stick poison because Voltorb surprises me with a self-destruct from 40%. I could have protected this, I just didn't expect it yet. Dang. But further surprising me was that Peptide lived through that, so she's suddenly found herself out of her depth facing down a Magneton. I lead Protect into Moonlight to stall. I don't know what I'm stalling for though. Shockwave has too many PP for me to PP tank him. But after many turns of screwing around, he gets fed up and uses Thunder Wave, then Supersonic, giving me a small window to chip in confusion damage. It's barely worth it, and that's the only one that I do land through a few more turns of stalling. So I'm down to Randall and Godiva. Surely Thunder Wave is the correct opener here, then I go with Spark. The damage isn't too bad, even at ineffective. This might be the way. Magneton returns a Thunder Wave, and I decided to Encore this. Encore works beautifully, wasting several more turns of his reapplying Paralysis while I shock him into the red, popping his first Super Potion. Once Encore ended, it took him 2 turns to land Supersonic, as I served Sparks down to low yellow to blow his second Super Potion. And with that spent, we should be through all of the games. It's just a damage race to see who can sneak more attacks through their Paralysis. Of course, he can. But who's that? We still have a fresh Randall to perform the coup de grace against a wounded, paralyzed Magneton. 1 Nightshade takes it. The pall is gone. The black cloud hanging over this run is cleared up. That was a bloody fight, and it's a clear example of why I can't play these runs with hardcore rules. We would be TPK'd. Watson gives the Shockwave TM for winning that I slap on Randall. His regular attacks almost never have super effective targets, but adding Shockwave suddenly gives me a lot of situations where I'm actively happy to send Randall into combat. It's a very nice power boost. I biked down for a Trick House installment, then reversed to proceed north up Route 111 with Rock Smash. Randall learned Detect at level 25, which I tossed out Nightshade to learn. Detect did a lot of work for me on my Crystal run, though it's tough to predict when exactly it'll help. I just know there will be times. We've got to bypass the desert, staring longingly at Pokemon we can't catch yet, but there is one Pokemon on the coming stretch that I do want to add to the team. No, not Spinda. That's legal, but that's another skitty. Middling stats without any typings or moves that solve any challenges. Nope, I'm looking for a Pokemon who certainly has types. Slugma resides in Fiery Path at a pretty low encounter rate, so I didn't fixate on a nature for this one. There is a lot going against Slugma or Magcargo on paper. Fire type in a game packed with water, it evolves late, 4x weakness to ground while half of the Elite Four knows Earthquake. But what I see when I look at Slugma is a weirdly solid moveset even from low level, one of the very few Pokemon who can utilize Flannery's Overheat TM and resistance to some useful types, normal, fire, and flying. I said this for Sableye, and it's true here as well. Set mode battles increase the strength of Pokemon with these odd type defenses. Now, I didn't care too much about nature, but I did stickle for the Flame Body ability and took a few catches to land on Mancy, the Slugma. Secret Base Boy gives me the Secret Power TM, which I throw on her over Smog. The rest of her moveset is great. Ember, Rock Throw, and Yawn. I was able to start putting her in battles soon, and she's already doing great. My favorite interaction was when this Ninjask used Fury Swipes, got Flame Body burned after the first hit, then had to complete the move, only doing half damage. Mancy sailed through an Aeron fight too. There are actually plenty of favorable Slugma fights if you're looking for them. I was of course looking for them. Once in Fall Arbor Town, I pick up the Dig TM, but I got paralyzed over going to use this. It looks okay on Randall, but I actually do like his full moveset right now, so I'm gonna hold on to this, i.e. never use it. Get some Team Aqua cutscenes in Meteor Falls, then it's back to Route 111 for the gondola up Mount Chimney for a mini Team Aqua segment. Aqua admin Matt fights us up here with 2 Carvanhas, that's simple work for Godiva. I'll note that if I was instead stuck fighting Numels during the stretch in Ruby version, I actually think the play would have been to hold on to Masquerain after delaying the evolution of Surskit to level 25, because that's the only way it will learn Bubble Beam. Against the Aqua boss Archie, Godiva paralyzed his Mightyena, then won in 2 sparks, beat Golbat in 4 sparks through 2 super potions, then took down Sharpedo in a single critical spark. Ain't no way Plusle deserves its ranking this lowly. I grabbed the Meteorite after because that's worth a return TM, then beat the Jagged Pass trainers and entered Lava Ridge Town with the party just reaching level 26. A man in the herb shop here gives us a charcoal, which of course goes to Mancy. Then, having entered town, some new trainers have spawned back up on Mount Chimney that I go fight for the additional experience pre-Flannery. Flannery's gym has quite a few subordinate trainers in it. Waitress defends okay in here, but Mancy both resists fire and hits back well with Rock Throw. She's crushing opponents in more ways than one. I got Waitress to the level cap of 28, with the rest of the party at 27 when I decided that I could handle Flannery. I'm gonna choose to take on the remaining gyms under the cap just for the extra challenge. It really is just Watson and Roxanne that I needed every level for due to restrictions on the tools I was allowed to use. Of course, I run Mancy against Flannery's first Slugma, and I lead with Yawn. I don't necessarily feel the need to sleep her, but with both of us knowing Yawn, it's a bit of an arms race. I have to do it in case she does, you know? Luckily she didn't, and 2 rock throws put her at red and blow a heal, then 3 more rocks win. Flannery's second Pokemon is another Slugma. Again, it's Yawn into Rock Throw, and I do pop her second heal. But instead of finishing this slug with Mancy, I send in Waitress here, who's gonna perform better against the coming Torkoal. Once I Horn Attack Slugma low, I take a moment to use Water Sport of all dumb moves, limiting her outgoing Flamethrower to only 10 damage. Then, it's down to Torkoal. With Fire's damage halved and female gender blanking Attract, this thing's main weapon is Body Slam. Waitress's Horn Attack damage is not very good, so I appeal to Supersonic for a little help on damage, but Waitress is gone after taking a second Body Slam that does crit. So I return Mancy to the field, but deliberated for a while on the move to use. Do we settle in with Yawn, Secret Power to hope for a Paralyze, or just gun for the win? Well, I do Yawn, a single Body Slam leaving me critical, then I take next turn making a free swap to Randall, Body Slam getting neutralized as Torkoal falls asleep. Randall then does his duty as a sleep paralysis demon, striking down Flannery with only Waitress lost for the fight. The Overheat TM I get for winning overwrites Ember on Mancy. Anyone who's gotten mad at Slugma for being stuck with just Ember until level 36 is arguing in bad faith. Overheat is a heck of a move, and Slugma can always pivot to rock moves after the special attack drop if it stays in combat. I grab the Toxic TM from Fiery Path now that I can use Strength, though I won't need this right away. You gotta go all in to run Toxic, and Peptide is not ready to commit to that. This Trick House visit awards the Hard Stone, which is awkward because that would go best on Mancy, who's already happier with Charcoal. Then, of course, the Go Goggles from May open up the desert. I went mostly for the trainers, and there is some good loot. Loot, including the Root Fossil, which could get us a Lily. Now, I was kinda close to picking Cradily as I sketched this run. It's got solid stats and looks a lot like Magcargo defensively without the water or ground weaknesses. It simply came down to that I'm not gonna run both, and Slugma both came a little earlier and has more useful moves right from the start. Randall dinged level 29 against a trainer here to learn Feint Attack over Thief. Shame I'll miss out on the couple of nuggets that one can steal over the remainder of the game, but this is a much better move. And I delivered that Meteorite to Professor Cosmo for a return TM. Now, if I was thinking straight, this would have been Greatress on Waitress, but it didn't occur to me until after she was mostly doing surfs. I've had her long enough that it should hit strongly, and she does have the attack stat to support it. Let my mistake be a lesson to you. Return goes pretty good on an early caught Goldeen, I think. So, Norman's cap is level 31, but it's awkwardly located back in Petalburg City, which is early game, so there's no good grinding spot close by if you need to grab some levels. I realized as I headed there with the team still at level 28 that leveling might get awkward. But at least I can start by clearing out the gym trainers and see where that lands me. I tried using Peptide for most of these fights because if there's one Pokemon I have my money on for Norman, it's her. I also got Mancy to 29 to learn Amnesia, a setup move that boosts special defense. I'm dropping Secret Power for this, which I haven't been using since learning Overheat, but I think I go the rest of the run without touching Amnesia either, so. Then, to solve the issue of no nearby grinding areas, I cashed in the rare candies that my Zigzagoons had picked up, bringing the whole team to level 29, which should be good enough. My instincts usually have me save rare candies for the endgame, but logic actually says their best use is here, right now, in terms of time and annoyance saved. So let's fight Dad. A turn 1 Facade from his lead Slaking would straight up KO Mancy, or else Yawn Sleep would line up nicely with his Slack Off turn. Don't ask me how I know. Instead, I'm pretty much obligated to lead with Peptide in order to protect, then I can spend his off turns on Poison Sting until Poison takes hold. I got it in 2 attempts. After that, it's just alternate Protect and Psybeams until Norman uses a Hyper Potion. Protect does not have enough PP to handle his other Slaking if he's gonna heal them like this. Norman sends in Vigoroth next, who doesn't loaf around every other turn, so this one's actually his scariest Pokemon for me. Randall blanks his normal type moves though. He's a free switch-in, and I steal a few hit points with Fake Out before entering a Slugfest, trading Feint Attacks with Feint Attacks. Now, we might have won this, but Norman does spend a second Hyper Potion once I put Vigoroth in the red, so I spend that turn sending in Godiva to Thunderwave. Then, a single Spark out of her wouldn't do too much work, so I actually used Fake Tears as her next move to sharply lower Vigoroth's special defense, with 1 slash putting Godiva in danger. Then I switched to Mancy, taking a similarly grievous slash before outspeeding, thanks to Paralyze, to one-shot Vigoroth in a massive overheat. It took 3 Pokemon working together, but some clever combos got us to Norman's final Pokemon with no KOs yet. Mancy is obviously not okay staying in, so I steal a turn, swapping back to a wounded Randall and begin Feint Attacking. Slaking also knows Feint Attack, so he can kill us, but Peptide's not the only one with Protect. Or Detect, same thing, half the PP. I only need 4 of my 5 detects as Randall intermittently attacks down Slaking for a clean 5th badge for the E-tier team. Dustox was a lock for my planned team from the very beginning due to this specific battle. I'm not sure that I could have done this without Peptide. But to break the 4th wall as editor Mothy, I should have dropped Peptide after this battle. There is no major battle for the rest of the game that Peptide really solves, and her damage is only going down from here. I actually might have done better with one of those mediocre normal types who can learn a bunch of TMs in this slot, maybe a Wigglytuff or maybe even Delcatty. Well, beating our dad got us surf permission, but we still need the HM. Let's go grab that from Wally's dad. Cool. Now, Waitress, caught after Gym 1, finally has a water attack, after Gym 5. Goldeen does have rather low special attack, victim of the early gen attack types thing, so this is probably the least of a power boost that Surf has ever been for my team. The level cap of the next gym is only 2 levels higher. I think as a consequence of there being a big gap before Flannery, the levels of her, Norman, and Winona all got kind of compressed. That's a problem because there's a lot of trainers between now and Winona, especially if we do the surfing routes. I would love to go sweep those routes with Godiva and Randall's electric moves, but I do have to duck the level cap. There is one thing I will insist on surfing for though, so I intentionally dodged trainers on the way to Dewford Island to pick up Sludge Bomb for Peptide. This 90 power attack keeps her in the game a little longer, though a fairly large percentage of remaining opponents do resist poison. Those familiar with Gen 3 know that I could also grab an early Ice Beam in the vicinity as well, but I won't need that one for a while, so I'll just defer. You know what, let's grab Thunderbolt though. I found Watson again for the new Mauville key and fixed the broken generator in exchange for TM24 Thunderbolt that I happily give to Godiva. No, Plusle doesn't learn Thunderbolt naturally. It feels like it would though, right? They often do let weaker Pokemon get a nice move as a reward for training them. That's like the quickest I've ever summarized the surfing content. Let's continue the game on Route 118. Even ignoring optional surf routes, there's still a ton of trainers on the way to Winona, so I will skip what I can. I can't always come back. On Route 119, the Weather Institute has another small Team Aqua episode. Randall is tearing through this place with Shockwave, though by now we'd finally have Surf if we were playing Ruby version so that we could finally punish Camerats. The boss in here is Shelly, whose fish dies easily, but her Mightyena finally checks Randall's hot streak. This enemy goes to Peptide, whose Sludge Bomb proves adequate to win. Having saved the scientists, we're handed Cast Form, who's actually legal for the team. Dragons really force the Ice type on your team, and Elite Four Drake is going to need an answer. My eligible list of Ice users for this run is small. You want a species that has good special attack and great speed. Cast Form could be that answer, with Ice Beams or with Weather Balls if we reset for a Speed plus Nature maybe and pump Speed EVs, but there's one other option who just seems more reliable without that we can still catch later on. I am happy to steal Cast Form's Mystic Water though. Waitress is happy to bring a refill of water to your glass. May attacks us across the bridge. This is a joke. Her Whalmer loses to Thunderbolt now. Her Combuskin wastes a turn bulking up, which lets me win in 2 Thunderbolts. Then her Shroomish, I was too lazy to swap for, so I just paralyzed it, softened it with fake tears, and still beat that one up with Thunderbolts. Get plussled. May gives me the Fly HM when I beat her. I've been shuffling HM slaves around as needed, but I do endeavor to at least keep Surf and Fly on my team because of how often they're needed. There's only one eligible flyer on my list though, and it's Zaytu, a Pokemon we love on this channel. In my Crystal E-tier run, Zaytu performed quite well, and it was one Pokemon that I felt may not deserve to rank so lowly. People are just mad that it learned Psychic so late. I'm not opposed to running a repeat. We could catch a Natu right now if we rush to the Safari Zone. But there's another flyer that I'm gonna bend the rules to legalize for this run. Call this in exchange for declining Bagon and the Reggies. Tropius is catchable here on Route 119, and I'm confident he'll be on a similar power level to the rest of my team. The official guide has Tropius in high tier, ranking his stats as average and his move pool as shallow, combined with mid-game, I'd almost call it late-game availability. That all sounds like a low-tier Pokemon to me. The one short sentence in additional comments explains why he's ranked so highly. Best HM slave in the game. The forum post more reasonably has Tropius in the C tier, again emphasizing his HM flexibility as a reason he's not lower. Quote, Tropius has difficulty sweeping, slows down the game, and uses a lot of potions. Well, I'm not going to use him as an HM slave, so toss that reasoning out the window, and we're left with a Pokemon who should, by all accounts, be a stinker. Based on combat prowess, Tropius is an honorary E-tier Pokemon, so I went ahead and added $10 to my team. He's a weird catch in that every single nature is fine, since dual flying and grass types can attack with either stat. He's got some bulk, so raising defenses gets value, and the chlorophyll ability speeding him up in sunlight makes it not terrible to mess with his speed either. $10 comes with Razor Leaf, and of course he gets Fly. The catch is, he's got 5 weaknesses, including some of the most common types. We're finally in Fortree City. I had lamented the narrow moveset of Plusle before. The one compelling attack that Godiva might be able to perform outside of Electric type would be if she randomly has Ice hidden power to help against dragons. So I saved my game, then tested it off camera. Her power is Grass. Far from the worst, because she would hit ground types with it, but I reloaded my game, that's not worth it. I went east of Fortree a little bit to pick up the Devon Scope from Steven and fight a Kecleon. I did go ahead and catch this one as an HM slave, but Kecleon is legal for the team, and it almost made the cut. He eats up a lot of solid TMs that don't have any other homes, and his color change ability that converts his type into the type of the last attack he was hit with, again, is one of those, I don't know what this might do, but it feels breakable kind of things. Fire, water, electric, grass, ice, poison, psychic, dark, and steel are all types that resist themselves, so I could see it really messing with opponent AI if I sent in Kecleon against those types. Alas, Randall is occupying the slot that Kecleon was going to fill, and I don't have the heart to drop him after he's proven himself in combat for most of the game. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And this is the randomest pet peeve, but I really hate when people use half of a cliche and then don't finish it. It really bugs me when people just say, better the devil you know, because that doesn't mean anything. When in Rome. I make it to the 4-tree gym with the team at level 31, $10 still at 26, holding the XP share to slow down the party's growth as I take out the subordinate trainers. Godiva is obviously lethal in here, but Mancy has plenty to contribute with a rock throw as well. At 27, $10 learned Whirlwind. Normally a trash move, except I might be setting up sunny days and trying to sweep, so if an opponent sends in someone that $10 is really bad against, I could see a use for Whirlwind forcing them to switch. If we're going to use Atropius, we may as well explore his whole learn set. I tried to favor Randall Shockwaves in here over Godiva just so that I won't feel guilty if Godiva ends up claiming all the XP from the leader fight. Speaking of, let's fight Winona. Winona's Swallow does the smart thing and tries to steal some space with Double Team, but Godiva keeps her eye on the ball. Annoyingly, Winona's got this Altaria next who's not only neutral on electric defense, this thing knows Earthquake to really ruin your day. I don't have a good solution for this. I'm forced to put in Peptide to Sludge Bomb a couple times, Altaria being saved via Hyper Potion, and Mancy only succeeds in rock throwing down Altaria from a Paralyzed proc that Godiva set up. That one was tough. Winona's got Pelipper next. I risk Mancy's life to yawn, and she does survive the water gun. Slugma continues to prove decent. Randall absorbs next turn's water, then he's free to Shockwave, popping another Hyper Potion from Winona before claiming the win. All that's left is Skarmory. Looks like it'll take 2 Steel Wings to beat Randall, but 3 Shockwaves for Randall to win, so in order to spare him, I do tag in Waitress and win on a Surf. This was another fight that relied on the entire team to win, despite me thinking that Godiva might sweep. My eyes are open to the danger of Altaria now for sure. A person would benefit from having a plan for that. Aerial Ace TM is the prize, the latest in a series of 60 power TMs that Randall can learn. But until we're done with all the water content, Shockwave is the clear best option to have in his flex slot. With Winona beat, there's some breathing room in my level cap again, so enabled by Fly, I went back for the content that I skipped. I've got a Trick House visit or 2 open, then I hit the Surf Routes in the southwest where $10 gets to start fighting his own battles, trouncing water ops with Razor Leaf. Tentacles shrug off the grass, but their lower defense sometimes succumbs to a single neutral fly attack. Tropius is actually the best grass Pokemon for clearing water content as a result of that. Usually when Tentacles show up, I just think, ugh, should have been using my electric Pokemon the whole time. At level 31, he wants to learn Magical Leaf. That's 5 more power, and it can never miss in exchange for the higher crit chance of Razor Leaf. I'm pretty sure the expected value is a fair bit lower, but the never missing clause can definitely come up. Because I'm over here, I grab the Ice Beam TM from the abandoned ship. This place is a little oasis of non-water trainers for the rest of the team to stretch their legs a little bit. Then, having completed a couple dozen trainer fights, we're ready again to resume game progress east of 4-Tree City along Route 120. Mancy has been quietly doing well with Overheat in the background, by the way. This game has enough random situations that a gigantic fire attack solves. It even does one-shot a lot of neutral matchups. And on the same note of moves doing quiet work in the background, Encore from Godiva has found uncommon but regular use cases. So many opponents have been leading with Howl, Bulk Up, etc., and you can just Groundhog Day them and then Thunderbolt, or use the chance to send in another party member that you expect will do better against that trainer's next Pokemon. Waitress hit level 33, brazenly fighting a grass opponent here, and evolved into a beautiful Seaking. Does society still remember Seaking memes? That one of Seaking hitting the towers was the funniest thing to a young, edgy caterpillar mothy back in the day. The Sunny Day TM is chilling in the scorched slab on this route, but it's not worthwhile teaching this to $10 until he can Solar Beam. Which, to be clear, we could have rushed for a while now if we went to the Safari Zone. It just hasn't felt necessary. The run has been going smoothly enough that it's not worth playing disruptively just for a little boost. In fact, I'm just going to let 10D hit level 41 to learn Solar Beam naturally instead of even bothering with the Safari Zone. That also spares me a bike puzzle too, and those are worth avoiding. Rhyhorn is like the one thing we could catch for the team in the Safari Zone, but that's gotta be the most unfortunate place for a Pokemon ever, with its 4x water weakness just before we're going to fight 45 water trainers. Just a little bit further, we're in Lily Cove City, where I would love to go on a shopping spree, but that means defeating May first, like America did by rebranding it as May Day and moving Labor Day to September. Godiva eats Swallow, Waitress eats Combuskin, Mancy gets Shroomish, and $10 gets the only non-one-shot against a Whalmer. Confusion off a Water Pulse does make it take a while to land a second Leaf, but eventually I do. Once that's over, the TM counters inside the department store have some goodies for the team. Reflect and light screen effects overperformed in my Crystal version run, so I grab one of each. I also take a Hyper Beam for Waitress. Realizing this would be strong on her is what made me realize that I probably should have been running Return instead the whole time. Light screen overwrites Fake Tears on Godiva, cementing her endgame moveset, and Mancy is my only option for Reflect. That goes over Amnesia to maybe allow her to live through an Earthquake. Now, it's time for Mount Pyre. Timu Gardevoir is catchable in here at a super low encounter rate, but the one interesting attack that Chimecho can learn besides Psychic is Shockwave, and that ship has sailed. Duskull is also catchable, but outside of Curse, that doesn't offer me anything that Randall doesn't do better. The Team Aqua grunts up here are no big deal, and we watch a little cutscene about orbs before fighting through the trainers on the interior portion of the mountain. In here, Peptide hits level 34 to learn Silverwind, a little too late to be exciting, but maybe we'll still get value against some dark types. I was close to running Volbeat on this run, who gets the more impressive bug attack Signal Beam and at a much lower level, but that just doesn't do much against Watson, Flannery, or Norman, so Dustox fully eclipses it in the early game. Up at the top of the tower, I collect TM30 Shadow Ball for Randall. He does learn this on his own in 7 levels, but nobody else is going to use this TM, so I may as well. I'm trying to break out of a hoarding mindset. Speaking of, some woman gifts a Giga Drain TM on Route 123, which is only a side grade for $10. Does it make sense to even learn this with Solar Beam coming soon and Synthesis after that? Likely no, but I'm free, smoking them because I have them. The team's level 35 as I return to Slateport to advance the story and kick off the Rising Action Team Aqua plot. I've never actually played Sapphire version through this point, so it's my first time experiencing the Team Aqua hideout dungeon, kind of, since Emerald version does have a variant of this. The Master Ball's in here, though I'm not catching anything difficult from here on out. This dungeon is mostly just a dozen battles against Zubats and Carvanas. I send $10 against admin Matt, Giga Drain being strong enough to one-shot his Sharpedo, but I pivot to Peptide for Mighty Ina just to save time. Silverwind scores a one-shot. You love to see it. After we're done in the Aqua hideout, we're on to the gigantic water stretch of the game, or as much of it as we want to bite off. Well, everything but the dive content. There's still a ton of room under the Tate and Liza level cap, so I'm inclined to cover most of the trainers right away. But I do start with taking an efficient path toward Moss Deep City in order to collect the Super Rod, which unlocks a couple more potential catches, including our fated Ice Beam user. We could use the Super Rod to catch a Love Disc, which I just can't get myself to do, or a Corsola, who'd be a delightful reprise from last video, and who comes with transformative abilities now. Or, by flying to Slateport City and surfing directly east on Route 134, we can catch a... any minute now. Okay, Cerebi says 15%, but there's no possible way. A Horsey. It took so long to find one, I'm gonna be more lenient on its nature. I'll only insist that it doesn't have a decreased speed. Y'all, this is Birdland the Horsey, with a calm nature giving up useless attack for also kind of useless special defense. It's remarkable how low Horsey's special defense is. I'll really be relying on speed and special attack to one-shot opponents. Of course, he gets Surf, and I also checked out his hidden power, but it's crap. I narrowed it down to something physical, then stopped caring. But I've been holding on to Ice Beam for a while now, and that adds excellent coverage to Birdland. The viable dragon slaying ice users for this run are really just Seadra and then maybe Castform in a distant second place. Birdland is a real water type too, so Waitress is the one getting retired. Must have also been a realtor or something. I continued on hitting water routes to train and decided to cover Shoal Cave while I'm up on Route 125. I had to make 2 staggered visits here, but I was able to cash in the 8 Shoal items for a Shell Bell that I hand to $10. I like having that HP regain on top of Giga Drain. He has a lot of hit points that he's quick to lose, so it's nice letting him regain a couple of them himself. Because I'm in the neighborhood, I did decide to go in and take out the trainers in the Moss Deep City gym now. Mancy hit level 36 in here to learn Flamethrower, and I paused for a good few minutes deliberating what to replace. Overheat does massive damage, but you don't want to need a follow-up use of it since it'll be much weaker. Flamethrower is more consistently powerful, has better accuracy, and a lot more PP, so I did go with the new move. But part of me is pretty worried that I lost Overheat. Aside from that, Shadow Balling Randall demolishes the psychics in here. It does make a big difference using that TM to have Shadow Ball just a couple of levels earlier based on what you'll be fighting. And Birdland hit level 32 to evolve into Seadra. This loses your Swift's mobility. His speed is excellent anyway though, so that's fine, in exchange for Poison Point, which is a weird one to have design-wise. These abilities that punish the enemy for hitting you are much better on Pokemon that can handle taking a hit. And I also let Peptide have a few Silver Wind victories in here just to feel something. Then, with Tate and Liza open and the party still well below level cap, let's head southwest toward Pacific Town for even more water content. Along the way, Godiva turned down Thunder at level 37. $10 said yes to Body Slam at 37. Actually a pretty good level up move to be learning, tempered by being off-type and by Tropius's mediocre attack stat. Randall got a move at 37 too. Popular level, huh? He finally gave up Fake Out, which was chipping in a bit of free damage and helping him hit breakpoints to sometimes turn X shots into X-1 shots for Confuse Ray. Then at level 38, Mancy finally didn't evolve. I canceled it. Because by pushing her late evolution even later, I'll be able to upgrade Rock Throw for Rock Slide at level 43 down from 48. And Magcargo does want Rock Slide, so I want her to have that early. Those specific levels do make a difference because that is the difference between getting to use Rock Slide during Victory Road or not. She is going to have to hold the XP share to help her get there though, because I cannot pretend there's more than a couple of safe matchups for her in the next 2 or 3 hours of water gameplay. Once I hit Pacific Town, there is a woman offering a traded Corsola for a Blossom. This was too inconvenient to make happen for this run, but I would have loved to run a trade Pokemon on the team. I've been thinking, since playing with level caps kind of loses the growth benefit that traded Pokemon have since you're grinding the team up all the same, that I might allow 1 extra level above cap if I use a traded Pokemon in order to recapture the original benefit of using them. There's also the fact a lot of trade Pokemon have awkward or bad natures by design, so a bonus level could help mitigate that. Does 1 extra level feel like a fair incentive? However, Mancy already fills the awkward rock dual type role, and Birdland is obviously on water duty, so Corsola was just not in the running. The team is 37, with a big handful of trainers still remaining west of Pacific Town, but I decided Tate and Liza should be assailable at this level since my team is set up well against them. It's hard not to be. So I head in to fight them, leading with Birdland and Peptide. Bird, of course, going for double value on Surf, and Peptide light screening. Unfortunately, too slow to shield Birdland, who got critically hit anyway by Lunatone's Psychic and knocked out. Randall probably makes the most sense to send in after that. We dodge a Hypnosis, and Solrock fires a Solar Beam against a screened Randall for pretty low damage before my counterattacks kill the Sun and weaken the Moon. Lunatone does stick Hypnosis next turn. Okay, buddy, but you can't stop 2 super effective attackers, and a Silver Wind takes the win. I took 1 unlucky KO there, but that's Gym 7 handled well below level cap. The toughest parts of these runs are definitely the early gyms when we just don't have as many tools in our belt. It's important I hit the Trick House, cause this time the prize is a magnet. An excellent prize for Godiva to further boost electric damage. Then it's on to the Cursed Dive content. It feels like such a waste saddling Birdland with this Dive HM and later with Waterfall, but I'd be kidding myself pretending that he'll use anything besides Surf and Ice Beam. Seadra doesn't even learn helpful utility moves. It's totally fine to ruin his moveset, actually. So, we're under Laotian now in the Seafloor Cavern where Peptide dings 38 against an Aqua Grunt to propose learning Toxic. It's awkward because Toxic goes great with Moonlight and Light Screen, but I'm not yet willing to give up Sludge Bomb or Silver Wind, so I have to decline. There's nothing like hitting that Silver Wind stat boost after knocking out the final opponent in a battle. I let Peptide handle Aqua Admin Shelly because I don't have anyone else who's very good against Dark type. And farther in this dungeon is the Earthquake TM, which is really awkward for this team. $10 could learn it, but he needs to run Fly. In a few levels, he'll add Solar Beam and Sunny Day, and then for his 4th move, I like Giga Drain or Body Slam. And Mancy is my only other Pokemon who could learn Earthquake, but she wants Fire Attack, Rock Attack, Reflect, and then Yawn has been with me all game and has been doing a lot of work. I've simply built a team who can't hold Earthquake, leaving some good power on the table. Very similar story with Psychic, by the way, whose TM comes a little later in Victory Road. The big Archie showdown is at the bottom of the cavern in front of Kyogre, with my levels below his, so the fight should be legit. Peptide does some work against Mightyena, but Archie switches into Crobat, which Peptide is no good for. So, I sent Birdland, his strong defense handling air cutters and wing attacks, and 3 Ice Beams win through a Super Potion. Then Archie returns Mightyena to the field, but Surf is not concerned with Intimidate. Then he does have a final Sharpedo, and I actually choose to send in Randall over Godiva since Sharpedo has no attacks that can hit Randy. He does taunt me and then swaggers up my attack a few times, which helps my ineffective Shadow Balls win once I can finally get 2 of those to connect. Kyogre wakes up, Team Magma comes in to help Aqua undo the immediate mess they've caused, and Steven tells me to go to Satopolis. Okay. Anyway, I'm obviously not capturing Kyogre, so let's kill it. I do get a little concerned with how many Calm Minds he stacks while $10 slowly Giga Drains it, so I pivot to Body Slam hoping for a paralysis. A super buffed Hydro Pump does beat 10D, so I send out Peptide since I want a physical attack in the face of these Calm Minds, and she gets the win with some Sludge Bombs. And I'll note the Cave of Origin is home to Wild Sableye. That would be a weird thing to add to one's team so late in the game because nobody would be thinking, gee, I wish I had mediocre ghost attacks at this point, but I think it's cool how Sableye spots bookend the majority of the campaign. With the weather fixed, I got a Brick Break TM, then stepped right in to fight the gaggle of trainers in Wallace's gym. I'm able to use $10 for, like, most of this gym. Nancy's still got the XP share to spare $10 from taking all of the XP, though. She's up to level 41 by now. Then, with the rest of the team 4 to 5 levels below cap, I decided to go ahead and challenge Wallace right now to keep the challenge high. We should be fine, right? We do have a Plusle. I lead Godiva against Love Disc and temper my bloodthirst long enough to set up Light Screen before burying this thing. Of course, Wallace puts in Whiscash next to try and Earthquake Godiva, but my swap to $10 annuls that. Unfortunately, Amnesia puts him on a 3-turn clock for Giga Drains, even at 4x, but Shell Bell keeps me pretty healthy against his weak water pulses. Wallace blows a heal to prolong this matchup, but eventually 10D gets there. Next comes Celio, an actual ice type, so I gotta send Peptide to avoid 10's 4x ice weakness. Dustox's high special defense impressed me here, and a renewed Light Screen gave me all the time I needed to Sludge Bomb Celio. I even used Moonlight to make it out of here at pretty high health. Wallace has Seeking next, so I predicted his Horn attack and sent in Randall. Now, Seeking is sturdy, so Randall got in a Confuse Ray just for help doing damage, but Seeking Uno reversed and confused me off a Water Pulse. Randall is not okay with this, so I had to return to $10 to help beat Seeking. Scary Ice Beaming Melodic is the final op. I put in Peptide just to tank 1.5 Ice Beams, setting up Light Screen, so I could then rotate in Godiva, who almost takes the win with a single critical hit Thunderbolt. That sticks Wallace on the back foot with heals though, and 2 more Thunderbolts beat Melodic uncontested, a severely underleveled fight with no KOs. And I only had to use 4 of my 6 team here, not that the other 2 would have done a whole lot. Now, I had to pick level caps for the Elite Four, and setting that ended up being kind of vibe-based. See, Steven's team goes to 58, which, if that's what I used, would be so high going in that the rest of the elites are no challenge at all. Drake's team goes to 54, which would keep the final 3 battles engaging, but it's still a little high for the first 2. I'm gonna defer making a call until I'm through Victory Road on this. Let's just get to the league first. I revisit Shoal Cave on a quest for Never Melt Ice for Birdland because winter is coming, and against a random black belt on Route 133 is when Mancy finally hit level 43 to learn Rock Slide, so I could finally allow her to evolve into Magcargo. Her special defense got a huge boost, defense is of course high, and her special attack is rather strong. The key is just dodging her 4S weaknesses so she can actually live to attack anything. Then I headed east through Route 128, Waterfell, and entered Gen 3's rather fun Victory Road. As I always do during Victory Road, I want to give each member of the team a report card on their performance. Y'all get to see the major battles, but there's lots of smaller pluses and minuses to these Pokemon that don't get captured on camera. Let's start with Peptide, who's been with me since the beginning. Dustox is definitely an E-tier Pokemon. Yes, Peptide was very good for Brawly and helped solve Norman through Protect, but she wasn't much help for Roxanne, Watson, or Flannery, and dropped off in power level after Norman thanks to low offensive stats and her best attack, Sludge Bomb, having a 0 good targets. She was fine early on and good against some scarce opponents who don't require much anyway, like Team Aqua, but I think in hindsight I would have done better replacing her with Chimecho, Kecleon, or even keeping Waitress with Return in this slot after beating Norman. Randall's offense is barely better, but learning Shockwave really greased the middle game, and his immunities continue to make him a useful Pokemon to swap into during battle. Shadow Ball gave him a nice power boost more recently, and he should be a good matchup for Phoebe coming up. Not to mention Nightshade saved my ass against Watson. Still, Randall's never the Pokemon that I think, oh, give this matchup to Randall. I use him instead when I realize, oh, actually Randall would be okay to send in. He's narrow. Godiva had a rough first 4 levels, but ever since learning Spark, she's been far and away the best Pokemon on my team. Electric type is always good in Pokemon games, especially so in Gen 3 with all the water content, and extra especially playing Sapphire version against Team Aqua. Early Thunderbolt by a TM is cracked, she actually has the special defense, especially under Light Screen to handle bulky opponents, and Encore is a cheat code in many circumstances. Don't sleep on Plusle. I said it when we caught her, Slugma has an excellent moveset early on, and the Overheat TM keeps its power up while you wait to evolve. Mancy was instrumental in defeating Flannery, and ever since has been punking Zubats with Rock Throw or burning the occasional Magneton. Now, the game is very unfriendly to Slugma and Magcargo type-wise in the final third, including the Elite Four where everyone knows Earthquake. I can't ignore that. But as someone looking for chances to utilize Mancy, I did find enough of them to justify her presence, and she's plenty strong when the matchup does allow her to come out. I'm excited to announce $10 is just as average as the rest of my team. Tropius in a non-HM role is a perfectly awkward, middling Pokemon. His hit point pool and defenses keep him alive the many turns he needs to drain opponent health bars, though he can eat up a lot of potions doing this. And it needs to be said that if I couldn't coast on Giga Drain thanks to half the game being water types, things would have been very different. That said, Grass and Flying dual offense lets $10 be relevant in a surprising number of matches, with Body Slam paralyzes sometimes mitigating his long TTK. Finally, Birdland. There have been near 0 targets for his water type on offense, but handing him that Ice Beam TM upon catch has given a fair number of flying targets to beat. With great speed and special attack, I've been able to rely on Birdland for neutral matchups, or for smartly finishing off an opponent that another teammate has softened up. Ice Beam is about to completely sweep Drake, probably, so keep that in mind, but based on performance so far, Birdland has been good, not great. His move pool is just water attack and ice attack. $10 did hit level 41 in Victory Road to learn Solar Beam, which together with Sunny Day, I wrote over Body Slam, Rip, and Whirlwind. Then, just because I knew I'd be using my rare candies before fighting the league anyway, I went ahead and used them now to help the team hit some breakpoints against the trainers in here. Got a Psychic TM, which, like Earthquake, awkwardly doesn't have a place on my team. And side note, Victory Road is actually the best Magcargo playground in the game. Opponents are back to having normal, diversified teams, and Mancy's eating them up. That's what I want you to take away from this video, if anything. When the meta isn't actively rigged against Magcargo, it's not a bad Pokemon. Wally assaults us on the way out of Victory Road with a real and dangerous team this time. He leads Altaria, the last of which we fought punked Godiva with an Earthquake, but now I have Birdland to put this trash in the can where it belongs. For his Magneton, I swap in Mancy, who has to tank 2 Thunderbolts and a Confusion self-hit, but does finally get the chance to throw Flames for a one-shot. Against Delcatty, I send Randall, thinking I'm set against normal attacks, but her assist actually does some damage after she sang me to sleep. I got freaking leech-seated. Eventually, Randall wakes up, and 2 feint attacks win thanks to her crit. For Roselia, I put in Peptide, neither of us being great against the other one, so I put up Light Screen to keep me ahead while I Sludge Bomb 4 times to win through 2 Hyper Potions. Then all he's got left is Gardevoir, a rare Psychic type that Randall is happy to see. My first Shadow Ball is not lethal, and he uses a double team, but no miss feint attack is around for exactly this situation. That's Wally done with no feints, meaning the Elite Four is now open to us, but I still have a little grinding to do. At level 47, $10 proposed learning Synthesis. It's a shame to lose Giga Drain, but I decided to go all in on Solar Beam for offense because Synthesis will also combo with Sunny Day. Now, regarding the level cap that I'm going to use for the Elite Four, should I make the first half of the Elite Four easy or the second half impossible? I decided the most fun course of action was to actually find an armful of rare candies and use them as I go throughout the league. By doing that, I can keep my levels somewhat below each elite, but still grow as we go, so I don't end up 9 levels below Steven. When using an underpowered team, some Pokemon have a good speed stat as one of their few advantages. That definitely applies to Birdland and Godiva this run, so facing an opponent of much higher level can erase your whole reason to raise that Pokemon, and it makes more sense to keep the levels a little bit closer to our opponent. Then, I needed one awkward preparation before going in to fight Sydney. I flew to the move relearner and had Peptide remember Protect to replace Light Screen. This vision should become clear later. With that, let's go in and fight Sydney. I lead with $10 against his Mightyena, setting up Sunlight, then acting first to land Solar Beam through a Sand Attack. Sydney declines to heal, so a second beam wins on turn 3. Absol comes out next. Solar Beam again takes him low, but this time I'm grateful his Citrus Berry heals him out of full restore range, but not so high that another Solar Beam defeats him on turn 5 as the sun fades. And Shell Bell is doing work here, $10 is barely scratched after that. Sydney's third is Cacturn, whose feint attacks do us reasonable damage. $10 has to switch to Fly Tech instead of Grass and wins in 2 moves here. Amazingly, that Sand Attack accuracy debuff hasn't hurt us once. Fourth comes Sharpedo. Crunch takes me low as I make Sunlight, then I choose not to Solar Beam, but Synthesis, which fully heals me turn 2, beaming to win on turn 3. Shall we recall that forum post tier list that said, quote, Tropius has difficulty sweeping, slows down the game, and uses a lot of potions. I'm not sure that author was using Solar Beams and Synthesis. 10D is mad self-sufficient. And he did just sweep most of Sydney. All that's left is Shiftry, but Sydney still has his heals, and he gets an extra double team turn to stall as I put up a fly. I'd prefer to be able to hit this guy, so I put in Randall next and go for Confuse Ray before starting ineffective feint attacks. After several turns, he heals to full, but Shiftry keeps swaggering Randall, so I decided to stop feint attacking and just gamble on attack stat-based Shadow Balls. I do finally get one to land. He full restores again. Randall eventually does a self-checkout, so I pivot to Mancy, who takes almost her whole health bar in extra sensories before landing a yawn, but once that's in place, Peptide has the breathing room to attempt 4x Silver Winds until one finally lands, and the world's evasivest tree finally goes down. With Sydney done, let's do something weird. Despite declining Toxic as a level up move prior, I do want it now. But I had to get through Sydney first because I thought I might want Silverwind here, and I did. With Sydney behind me, I overwrote Silverwind with Toxic, and now relearning Protect will hopefully make sense. She's going to Toxic Tank. Phoebe is next, a trainer who's hard to have super effective coverage against unless you specifically bring Shadow Ball, which we did. She leads Dusclops, and I go balls out with Randall, expecting to finish him off after a curse, but instead Randall just crits for a one-shot. Shadow Ball does not kill her next Banette, who serves me back a crit, but I do pop one of Phoebe's heals here and win with 2 more Shadow Balls. After that, she's fed up with me and puts in her own Sableye. It's time for Mancy to shine. Her high defense shrugs off Shadow Balls here, but I don't want to reflect or she'll just pivot to feint attack and I'll have wasted a turn, so instead I just begin swinging and I win in 2 flame throws. Phoebe puts in her Ace Dusclops next, surely going for Earthquake here, but it also knows Ice Beam, so $10 is not a safe switch. I don't really have any safe switch here, my team is kinda soft to Earthquake, so Mancy just martyrs herself to get a yawn in. Randall is able to detect through Dusclops' remaining Wakeful turn, and then get to work casting Shadow Balls. Unfortunately, Citrus Berry makes this take 3 turns, and Dusclops wakes up after just 2, so I lose Randall to Earthquake. I have to put in Godiva to kill, but Phoebe heals, and it takes 2 more Thunderbolts to return Dusclops into the red. Then, anticipating Earthquake again, I free swap $10, and I'd prefer not to suffer a 4 times effective Ice Beam, so rather than setting up Sunlight here, I just put him Airborne to finally defeat this thing. A hilarious moment happens against her final Banette, who leads with Skill Swap to steal Chlorophyll from $10 as I set up Sunlight, meaning that she is ultra fast next turn to Toxic me, but a single critical hit from Solar Beam ends the fight without us even taking 1 tick of that poison damage. I candied the team to level 50 for Glacia, which is 3 below her limit, and stepped up with Mag Cargo in the lead, who heartbreakingly almost kills Glalie. This does cleanly pop one of her full restores though, and the same move next turn and the turn after defeats Glalie. I can't have Mancy taking a Surf, so against Glacia's first Celio, I swap to $10. She'll know Ice Ball, but that should be weak enough for us to live through it. So I begin Sunlight and then Solar Beam her almost dead for her to overwrite my Sun with some bitchy Hail. I'm likely not keeping in 10 after this, so I just go with Fly now. Celio 2 has more serious attacks. This thing could kill us in 1 Blizzard, so I have to switch to Peptide, who dodges the first Blizzard, then sets up Toxic and commences stalling. Good thing Moonlight still heals well under Hail. The plan is to alternate Protects and Sludge Bombs, healing again if I need to, but a stupid critical Blizzard sticks Peptide down and she loses to Hail. That's not good luck. So I gotta put in Godiva, and she spends her turn light screening for Celio's Poison to score the kill. Glacia sends in Glalie 2 next, whose physical type Shadow Ball could still hurt us through light screen, so I only bother with Thunderwave before switching to Randall. Randall adds Confusion to this thing's list of problems and gets in an attack before I take advantage of the chaos to put Mancy back in to flame the win. Now, only Walrein remains, and nobody on the team looks great for this. Birdland makes okay headway with 2 surfs before predictably getting outdamaged, but he's left Walrein's hit points in a perfect spot, above Citrus Berry or Full Restore range, so that 1 Thunderbolt can finish this fight. This match was a little bloodier, but at 3 levels down, I think we still did pretty well. I heal up and candy the team to level 51 for Drake, which is again 3 levels below his. But I'm expecting this one to be much less dramatic thanks to our carefully chosen Iceman. Drake leads with young Shelgon, Ice Beam. Altaria, Ice Beam. Flygon starts a Sandstorm, then straight to Ice Beam. Flygon 2, critical paralyzing Dragon Breath. Luckily, Ice Beam, but that still leaves Drake's ace, Salamence, and Birdland is now too banged up to skate through this. We both take sand damage, putting Birdland out of his misery like a majestic racehorse with a broken leg. Now I'm staring at my roster wondering how the heck we're gonna skin this cat. Salamence doesn't have Earthquake, thank goodness, so my first move is to stick in Godiva. It's been a pretty common case across both E-tier runs now, when I have a light screen user, to just switch to them, have them tank 1.5 attacks, doing nothing but setting up light screen, then switching them out to another Pokemon to actually fight. That's what I do here. Light screen put Salamence on Fly, interestingly, because that's still going to be weak against Electric, but Mancy takes very little damage on the swap, and then sticks the Flame Body burn, which comically blanks my own Yawn. But now that physical and special damage are both halved for Salamence, Mancy has breathing room to hit respectable Rock Slides, popping the Citrus Berry, then burning Salamence back down to 30%. 1, even 2 Dragon Claws from the opponent should not be a problem as long as there's no critical hit. We got it. The Humble Mag Cargo, plus light screen support from Plusle, takes down Drake's scary Salamence. Steven is all that's left. I boosted the team to level 54 here, now 4 levels under Steven's highest, and walked up with Godiva in lead position against Steven's Skarmory. She continues to be an absolute unit, and a single Thunderbolt just claims a win. That's 5 Pokemon left. Steven puts in Aggron next, surely going for Earthquake, against which, of course, I put in $10. Aggron's only real move against $10 are crappy Thunders. That gives me the space to set up Sunlight, Solar Beam him into yellow, then Solar Beam again next turn, Shell Bell keeping me around 75% healthy. For some reason, Steven's best idea is to put in Claydol now. I guess he's excited by off-type, low-powered Ancient Powers, but we're still super effective here. My first Solar Beam is not lethal, and I'm forced to use another Sunny Day as an Ancient Power crit finally cracks halfway on $10 hit points. So, now I could win, or I could win with more hit points. Synthesis restores 2/3 of your hit points in Sunlight, which is insane, and I finally claim my lethal Solar Beam on the following turn from rather high health. It's Cradily I'm worried for. This Pokemon tends to give me the most trouble during my Steven fights, and it's not different on this run. I wonder what this mirror match would have looked like. An exploratory Solar Beam on my part does okay damage as he confuses me, and I know this thing can run away with a fight if I let him set up, so I'm looking to make a swap rather than trying to power through confusion. Of course, it can only be Mancy. Her defenses should be good enough to live 2 Ancient Powers, and we get the burn from Flame Body. Meat's back on the menu, boys. He started using Giga Drain now, I guess scared by the burn, which still does hurt me pretty bad. I won't live through another one. But this turn's Flamethrower and Burn got Steven into healing territory, so I have the freedom to slap down another Flamethrower. And by a miracle, I even proc a natural burn from the Flamethrower attack. Anticipating the Giga Drain again, I swap into Peptide, then blow a turn Protecting to scam some burn damage before going for a Sludge Bomb. Non-lethal, ew. But another burn tick is lethal after I suffer an outgoing Ancient Power. That's the scariest single matchup all game, but we're still not done with the encounter. There's 2 more. Armaldo comes in. Hey, what are the odds I can steal a win with Toxic here? I start the poison going, which unfortunately costs Peptides a life. He does land the stat up on Ancient Power as well. Time is on my side because of Toxic, so I send in Randall to waste turns with Detects, confusing him in between. Detect is great for stalling while burns or poison do damage for you, but if you use it consecutively, it's only half as likely to succeed cumulatively. Armaldo is only 1 poison tick from dying here though, so what I do is risk a consecutive Detect, which does land, Bazinga. Toxic Tech handles Armaldo. It did cost us Peptide though. Only 1 opponent remains in the run, Steven's Ace Metagross, who's got some real high offense backed by tricky type defenses thanks to the steal. Nobody on my team looks safe to switch into, but I want to preserve Randall in case I can get Metagross paralyzed in order to outspeed him with Shadow Ball. So I put in $10, expecting Meteor Mash, and instead just blank an Earthquake? It's a start. Next turn, his Meteor Mash does an even 100 damage as I start the Sunlight, which means if I full heal on Synthesis, I should get one turn to attack in the middle as long as he doesn't crit. And Shell Bell helps guard against him just getting a high roll to win without a crit. I did not expect Meteor Mash to just miss though, that's a blessing. $10 is able to pop his Citrus Berry, but the sun going out means I no longer outspeed him and a Psychic is lethal next turn. What do I send now? Seadra Surf isn't the worst idea, but then a breakthrough. Psychic is much less scary than Meteor Mash. What if we asked to see that play again? Can I get an encore? Cookin' raw with the Brooklyn boy. Having used that, Light Screen next turn is basically free, and I put out a Thunder Wave too before Thunder bolting him low and then sadly losing Godiva. It all comes down to Mancy now. Steven's gonna full restore, so we have one turn to watch a fully powered Magcargo give Metagross the business.
Son of a...
Remember when I was agonizing over keeping Overheat instead of Flamethrower?
Part of me is pretty worried that I lost Overheat.
I should have kept Overheat. Steven does have another full restore, so I pick Flamethrower again. Then with his Encore over, I'm sure he'll be going for Earthquake, so I make a switch. Birdland has great defense and should live through this... Psychic? Okay, and how did we survive that? Seadra's special defense is crap. But next turn, Birdland shows us the airspeed velocity of an unladen Swallow, surfing the end of his health bar to finally beat Metagross and win the run. That took 5 of my Pokemon all working together to achieve. These anime teamwork moments are definitely my favorite part of these bad Pokemon runs. There ain't much postgame in Gen 3, so that's the run complete. But let's check back in with our tier lists now and see if the team felt worthy of the low ranks that they were all given. Obviously, I think the biggest miss is Plusle, and this should also apply to Minun despite a slightly lower special attack on that one. You'd have to really mess up an electric Pokemon to place it any lower than B tier in Gen 3. That's where I'd put Plusle myself. Sure, Manectric has a better ability, and Magneton has better defenses. It seems to me like Plusle must have been placed bottom because it's not as good as other options. But a tier list like this should be absolute to each Pokemon's inherent strength, not relative based on other Pokemon who fill a similar role. Lord knows they don't treat the water Pokemon like that, or I would have had more options than just Goldeen to learn Surf. Plusle scored a ton of one-shots for me throughout the game, all the way through the Elite Four, and also enabled the rest of the party to succeed multiple times through Light Screen, Encore, and Thunder Wave. This one ranking sticks out so much because for every other Pokemon I used, I largely agree on its low ranking. I'll only be splitting hairs on whether it belongs in F versus E tier, because remember I used both the rock bottom and the almost bottom tiers to get a little more diversity. Goldeen was bottom on both lists, and my experience was concurrent with that. Early Horn Attack was fine, and Water Sport helped barely against Flannery, but Goldeen's first water move being Surf in the mid-game, and its special attack being low enough for that not even to be exciting, especially in a game as wet as Gen 3, Goldeen was not good. I think early Goldeen is secretly an interesting return user, but yeah, it's a lot of work raising this one for little payoff. Dustox is one Pokemon that was marked as off-bottom on both lists, but I would personally scoot it all the way down. Dustox has a fine array of utility moves that did work, but outside of Protect against Norman, Dustox didn't feel great for me at any point in the run. It was quite hard to grind levels for, too. Try killing anything in Victory Road with Sludge Bomb. Dustox is bad on offense, and outside of Norman where it's excellent, it was never better than fine. I personally have it in my bottom tier. Sableye was similarly ranked above bottom for both lists, and that felt perfect to me. He's got disappointing stats, but plenty of situations where I was happy to switch to him in battle in order to nullify some attack, and Shadow Ball breathes him some life toward the end of the game while assisting greatly against Phoebe. Sableye learns a nice mix of TMs in theory, but the game doesn't give us a reason to care about most of them. Slugma had some disagreement on the lists. It was F tier on the post, but merely low on the guide, citing a decent move pool, which I do acknowledge. I was looking very closely for places that Slugma could be useful, and I did find a couple, but it took a magnifying glass to find them. The Generation 3 meta just ruins this one. I would side with the post in Slugma's case and put it fully bottom tier, acknowledging that its main problem is simply not getting to use it much. Tropius was my cheat in from the C tier since I wasn't placing value on his HM learn set, and you know what? He does play pretty well. I'm sorry, run is invalid. Chlorophyll ability plus Sunny Day Solar Beams is a fine combo, even with sad special attack stat, and Synthesis restoring 2/3 of his massive hit point bar in sunlight actually makes up for having so many weaknesses. The post says that Tropius is, quote, generally unable to contribute offensively against most of the Pokemon League without significant investment. But I found a surprising amount of good matchups for Tropius in the league, sweeping several against Sydney and a couple against Steven, with my only investment being the Sunny Day TM. However, do remember that Tropius shows up late in the run on only one route with a low encounter rate, and this poor availability is part of these rankings. When you factor that in, I believe a low tier or E-tier label may be appropriate for Tropius still. We ranked Slugma low for all the water opponents. The other side of that coin boosts Tropius since it gave him so many Giga Drain targets. He's tough to rank ultimately. I'll concede he overperformed in combat. Tropius, not just for HMs anymore. And then there's Seadra, ranked at F in the post and not mentioned on the guide. Catching this thing came very late and was painful. There's absolutely no way its encounter rate is the listed 15. Seadra has great speed and special attack, but the availability is quite bad and it doesn't learn anything outside of water moves unless you spend your Ice Beam TM here like I did. Even then, Seadra doesn't learn any useful utility moves. It may as well only have 2 move slots for Surf and Ice Beam. Narrow usefulness combined with late and low availability are enough to keep Seadra's ranking low, so I do concur with the F tier for this one. And shout out to my girl Surskit for saving the run against Roxanne. Didn't get to keep using it, but I'm pretty sure that would feel like Peptide and the power would drop off soon when Bubble Beam was no longer great. Overall, as my second challenge run using explicitly bad Pokemon, I had a ton of fun again, especially when a tough opponent needed 3 to 5 of my team swapped around to defeat it, and the XP would get all fractionated. These runs have me using moves I would never look twice at. Encore specifically opened my eyes this time. I thought you kind of had to guess to make that move useful, but having it on such a fast Pokemon meant that I could always choose when to lock in the right move. And this run had some tough puzzles to solve, especially early on when my eligible catching list was so slim. Surskit for Roxanne felt like the only solution. Good luck with Roxanne if you try this in Emerald where there's no Surskit. And having no water Pokemon, because Goldeen doesn't count, against Flannery was tough as well. Watson stank, but he always does. Hey, thank you so much to you specifically if you stayed this long to watch the video. Watch percentage is a really important metric for YouTubers, and I'm pleased that you're enjoying my content. Thank you. Like I've said before, I'm aiming to intersperse more challenge runs with my long retrospective content, so keep letting me know if you enjoy these E-tier challenge runs or maybe want to see something different. Thanks as always to my patrons who allow me to keep pumping out videos with less reliance on the whims of this platform. I'm grateful for all of your support. Link below if you'd like to add your name here, and the Mothia community also has a very nice Discord, which is of course free if you want to connect with a gamer like you. That's all I got. I'll see you kids in New Barktown.